Okay, so let's talk White House Plumbers episode 5. So, this episode was basically a speed run through the trial. Both the trial in a court of law and the Senate committee hearings. So, this episode was also showing just how absolutely unhinged Gordon is. So we see basically through stock footage, through archival footage, what happened during the trial. And unlike in the show where everybody pled not guilty, the idea was that you're going to plead not guilty and John Dean's going to take care of us. Well, the problem is that John Dean is being thrown under a bus. So John Dean decided, yeah, I really don't want to take the fall for this, for something that really wasn't my fault. I mean, I'm just doing what I was told to do. Why am I taking the fall for this? So between that and, well, it starts at the funeral. That's unhinged Gordon number 1, because he keeps wanting to talk to Howard about the trial in Watergate, and Howard's like, not now, while his son is playing MacArthur Park. And, which I hadn't heard in a long, long time. But anyway, so they're at a funeral. They have their um their gathering after the funeral. And Gordon is being weird. The one moment that I really liked was Fran and Howard. Fran was saying how she was pregnant with their 4th, and she was just banging her head against the wall because she was just so tired. And Howard's like, yeah, if I was married to Gordon, I would be doing that on occasion too. So a bit of humanizing of these people. Another one was when Gordon was in prison by himself, and Fran's like, why won't you take a plea deal? And is there something wrong with me that you don't want to come home? And you so felt for her. And Gordon even's like, you know what? I recommend you just find someone else, because, it's probably for the best. Mainly because he thought he was going to spend a lot of time in prison, which unfortunately did not happen. But anyway, so John Dean decides that he's not taking the fall for him. And that actually happened. John Dean was like, being thrown under a bus. I don't like this. I'm going to give testimony. But before then, like I said, in real life, most of them pled guilty. It was just Gordon and McCord that pled not guilty. But as you saw in the show, McCord, towards the end of the trial, did write a letter to the judge saying, this is what really happened. Which, didn't sit well with, in the show, didn't sit well with the other defendants, but, in real life, probably there wasn't the problem, because most of them pled guilty to begin with. So they all go to jail, and you see Gordon completely unhinged first in the trial where he's creating a disturbance, then in jail when they're making sure that there's no contraband on them, and Gordon just goes completely insane. So, and may I just say how good Woody Harrelson looks for 61. He looks damn good. So, they're in prison, and they're watching the hearings, the Senate hearings from prison. And, Gordon and Howard get into an argument because, Gordon's unhinged. He actually told John Dean that Howard was, losing it. No, Gordon's completely unhinged. So they're arguing. Gordon is convinced that John Dean's going to be joining them in prison, and that, he's going to kill him, and this is how he's going to do it. And Howard's like, oh my God, I really, really do not want to hear about this. And of course, Howard is upset that his government turned on him, because there is a conspiracy theory that Dorothy was murdered, that the CIA took down, or the FBI, or someone in the government took down that plane. True, the FBI got there before the fire department, but they also had 10 people tied to Watergate on that plane. So, but yeah. And for people who don't remember Bud, he was the one who originally ran the White House Plumbers before he just decided, nope, not doing this anymore. So yeah, the idea that Howard was running his mouth about, he was threatening them. Dorothy in the show was threatening them. So that the government probably, this was payback. And she did take out that life insurance policy. That did happen as well. So, but what I read is that even Nixon was shocked when he found out that this happened. So John Dean mentions that the reason he's doing this is because he realized that Nixon was taping everything, and he was trying to pin it all on John Dean, and John Dean was not about to go down for something he did not do. That he realized that he was, a wide-eyed zealot, and of course Gordon's just like, I want to kill him, I want to kill him, I want to kill him. Gordon is so into what he thinks of as spy games that it's just, he has no idea how real people operate. But anyway, so he gives his testimony, which, like I said, was archival footage. They used archival footage for John Dean, for McCord, which was pretty easy to do because the similarities between the two, well, the similarities between both of them, between the real life McCord and the real life John Dean, and the actors were really good. I was kind of bummed that they didn't do that for Howard Hunt, but I guess because Woody Harrelson is one of the stars, they didn't want to do that. But anyway, so he gives his testimony, and suddenly he's like a rock star. And so McCord doesn't face any jail time because he admitted to what was happening. And oh yes, and when the Godfather explained to David what, do you know what a Godfather is? That was true. He was sent to live with him in Miami. So, obviously not as dramatic as what happened here. But before Howard Hunt um, you know, deals with any of this, he gives a package to Kevin. Now, at first, he almost learned his lesson and didn't want to involve Kevin in destroying evidence. Now, Kevin said, "Oh, so you want me to destroy this for you?" He's like, "You do what you want with it. I cannot. If I destroy it, I would have to tell the committee that. If I were to ask you to destroy it, I would have to, in good conscience, tell the committee that. So you just do what you want." And of course, Kevin doesn't destroy it because she actually has a brain in her head. Now, I'm not saying that St. John is an idiot. He was probably just so excited that his father wanted to spend any time with him and that thought that he would be a good pick to do this with, that it kind of canceled out the thinking things through part. But anyway, so Kevin takes the package with her. So while Howard is in jail, like I said, he and Gordon were getting testy. And then Howard does a cartoon fall over. He had a stroke, which actually it did happen in real life. He was robbed, he was beaten, and he had a stroke. So yeah, he did not have a fun time in prison. Which, considering what he was doing, don't feel bad. No, not at all. Feel bad for the kids, but not for him. But anyway, so he while he's recovering. Now, before this, he got into a fight with Lisa and St. John, and because he sold the house and he sent David to live with his godfather, which according to Howard, he's better off. He's better off that way. It's like, and Lisa and St. John are chopped liver. What's going on here? So Lisa even called him out on his obsession with communism. That he's so obsessed with seeing communists everywhere, especially amongst the Democrats, that he basically screwed himself. And Howard then tells Gordon that, Ellsberg should have gone to jail for leaking the Pentagon Papers. But because of what we did, he got off. They even showed him all the contents that came from his safe, and he's like, something's missing. So he's upset with John Dean that he kind of didn't give everything over. So, yeah, Howard is mad at everyone. He thinks his country turned against him, and it's like Lisa said, no, it was your obsession with something that wasn't happening that was your own downfall. You're just blaming it on everyone else. So while he's recovering at the hospital, Kevin looked into what it was that Howard gave her, because she's like, I'm hearing what they're saying about Mom, and how she was involved in all this. And so I looked, and there were all these monetary transactions. She's like, you either go tell the truth at the Senate hearing, or I'm giving this to prosecution. So when he was telling Gordon, I'm going to tell the truth, Gordon just lost it. And why didn't Howard just say, Kevin is threatening me? She will give this piece of information to the prosecution if I do not cooperate. So Gordon might accept that. As unhinged as he is, he might have accepted that. But we'll never know, because that wasn't the reasoning he used. He used the reasoning of, I've lost everything. I have to do this now. It wasn't, oh, my daughter is blackmailing me. Either I do this or she's going to hand over more evidence and get me really screwed. Though Gordon does come up with a good point. What the hell does he need to be a member of 4 country clubs with? It's just, why? But, so by the time Howard testifies, Gordon is laughing maniacally that he's too late. And meaning that he's not going to be saving himself the way John Dean saved himself, because John never contradicted himself. He never went and said, okay, I'm going to plead not guilty or guilty or whatever. He was never in a position to do that. So, like I said, John Dean kind of became the rock star, and Howard, was an afterthought. So, at least they got him sentenced to a minimum security prison. So, he goes there, and you see him ironing shirts, and that's where he finds out that Nixon resigned. And he just is like, well, there goes my last chance to get out of here. Now, the one thing that was missing through this episode and through the basically the epilogue, the scroll, was no mention of Mark Felt. Because for those who are familiar with the whistleblower of Watergate, which, yes, John Dean was a whistleblower, but he wasn't the whistleblower. He was the whistleblower that actually went in front of the Senate hearing. I'm talking about the whistleblower that told Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein from the Washington Post what was going on, and that's how they were coming out with these articles. Deep Throat. He was named Deep Throat, which Mark Felt hated that name, and considering there was a porno with a similar name around that time, I can see why he would hate that. I really can. But no mention of him whatsoever. Nothing about someone reading the Washington Post and keeping up with the articles in the Washington Post. There was a montage of newspapers with headlines about the burglary, about the trial. But there was no mention of Woodward, Bernstein, and definitely not Deep Throat, because obviously at this moment nobody knew who Deep Throat was. It wasn't until 2005 that we found out that Mark Felt was Deep Throat. I mean, there were rumors, but we didn't know definitively until then. So I would have liked something, or in the epilogue, in the scroll, something about Deep Throat, as opposed to Gordon Liddy guest starring on a couple of episodes of Miami Vice. That was so random. Why not point out that he was the 1990s Rush Limbaugh? He was a talk radio host. At that point, why not say that? Unless they were trying to totally belittle what Liddy did after he got out of prison, but yeah, I would have preferred them mentioning, oh, by the way, this happened. This this is what Mark Felt ended up doing, and that he was Deep Throat. I was kind of upset that they didn't even make a mention of him, especially since it was mentioned that the person leading the investigation, the FBI investigation, was Mark Felt. So it would have been nice if they mentioned that, oh yeah, he's Deep Throat. So yeah, that kind of annoyed me. Like I said, I really liked that Liddy was really that he was humanized when talking to Fran about, yeah, maybe you should move on because, I'm going to be here a while. So that was the only humanizing moment of him throughout the show, throughout the series. Now, now he was working on getting a kosher meal for one of the Jewish inmates. So he finally manages that. And so the inmate was so happy, he gives him a standing O, and suddenly everybody's giving him a standing O. He starts singing in German, which, okay, that's not weird at all. And then he does the Nazi salute. And so the poor Jewish guy who is clapping and at the verge of tears that somebody cared about his immortal soul and got him a kosher meal, stopped clapping. He's like, okay, you're too weird for me. I am, no. And that was probably so confusing for this dude. It's like, wait a minute. You're doing the Nazi salute, but yet you're helping out a Jew. What? So, but yeah, because of the situation, especially the Hunts found themselves in, it would have been nice if the scroll also said what happened to the kids. I mean, we know that David went to live with his godfather in Miami. But it would have been nice to know, especially since all of them are still living, it would have been nice to know, okay, this is what they ended up doing. This is what they're doing now. This is what happened to St. John's. This is what happened to Lisa. This is what happened to Kevin. And even the Hunt kids, the Liddy kids, even though we really didn't see much of them, this show was really focused on Howard. It would have been nice if we saw a scroll that said, this is what they're doing now. This is what this person's doing now. I don't see why they couldn't have done that. It would have been super easy. They already did a speed run throughout the trial. They could have spent more time, showing more black scrolls. Now, Gordon said something which was bizarre for considering what he went through. He thought it was a accomplishment that people are now distrusting of their government, which is going to have long-lasting ramifications, which is, of course, a statement that is true today because there's so much distrust. But I just found that very peculiar that would come out of his mouth, because the whole point was that he did trust his government. He did trust his president. So now he's now he's glad that people don't trust the government. What? That makes no sense. But anyway, let's see if there's anything else I missed. Let's see. Yeah, I skipped over a lot of scenes like them fighting about the damn tape and stuff because that was just silliness. It didn't have anything to do with the plot, just them bickering. Oh yes, I did kind of expect there to be a bit of a catfight between Gordon and Howard because they were just doing the stare down. So I really expected something to happen, but nothing did because I think Howard, I don't care if Howard has an ulcer. I don't care if he just recovered from a stroke. He could probably take Gordon because Gordon is way too full of himself. So, let's see if there's anything else that I'm missing on this episode. I think I covered everything that I wanted to from this episode. Yeah, I think I've covered everything, so I will see you guys next time.